Not too long ago, Realme Malaysia announced the arrival of the new Realme 5 series of smartphones, and today we are going to take a look at the brand new Realme 5 here, which has a starting price of just 599 ringgit, and today we are going to take on a tour around this whole phone itself. So I mentioned the starting price of the Realme 5 is at 599 ringgit. That is for the 3GB RAM version with 64GB of storage. But the one we have here is at 799 ringgit and it comes with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage. Firstly, let's talk about the design first. The Realme 5 has a pretty similar design with the Realme 5 Pro, which I will link our review at the top right corner there. It still comes with this diamond cut design with this facade look. And if you don't like this shining, shimmering, splendid look, you can also use the included TPU case to cover it up. It is semi-transparent, smoked, also very similar to the Realme 5 Pro. So when we cover it up, it will look like this. So this is how it looks with that smoked TPU case on. You can still see a bit of reflection, but it's much more subtle this time around. The Realme 5 is also thicker than the Realme 5 Pro, and that is for a good reason because it comes with a 5000 mAh battery. And we will talk more about it later. Other points of highlight is also the expandable memory. So you have a total of 3 dedicated card slots here, 2 for your nano SIM and 1 more for your microSD card slot. And surprisingly, you also get a rear fingerprint scanner here, which I obviously prefer over the under display one. The Realme 5 also comes with this 6.5-inch display. It's rather huge actually, and it comes with a 720p display instead of 1080p. At this price range, I don't really care much about the resolution because 599, I can't really find any 1080p screens, and it is using IPS LCD. The colors surprisingly look good and you still can customize the warmth of the screen through the software itself. And then comes the camera setup. Realme really made an emphasis on the cameras this time around, and the Realme 5 comes with quad cameras just like the Realme 5 Pro. The only difference here is that the main camera is downgraded to a 12 megapixel sensor instead of a 48, and all the other sensors seems to be the same as well. Then comes the picture quality itself. The Realme 5 can actually take pretty good pictures, but I'm going to leave chroma boost and HDR mode turned off because if you want to learn more about that, you can check it out in our Realme 5 Pro review there. And the overall exposure is a bit dim for my liking, but overall it's good. The main camera and ultra-wide angle can produce really good pictures. Just straight up good pictures coming out from a smartphone that costs 599 ringgit as a base price. And I think the macro camera can perform really well if you have the softbox for it. So a softbox here is meant for you to just put some figurine inside. So inside that box itself, you get a really well lit subject. So with that in mind, you can really take good macro shots. But when I tried outdoors, it's a bit haywire in terms of the white balance. Once again, it can be fixed through a software update. And the Realme 5 also comes with their own dedicated night mode, which is called the Nightscape mode, and it can take some pretty decent night shots, especially in equalizing the exposure. Like if you have a street shot with lamppost, then the lamp won't overexpose everything. As for the camera UI itself, the Realme 5 also comes with ColorOS 6, which is identical to the Realme 5 Pro, which is once again, you have to refer back to our previous review of the Realme 5 Pro at the top right corner there. And I would say, in summary, once again, the camera UI, it works, although I don't know why the ultra-wide angle camera toggle button is right at the top there. And I would say, once again, the hamburger menu is really useful here, and we don't have to scroll left and right through modes to toggle between them, so that's a plus. As for the specs itself, the Realme 5 comes with a Snapdragon 665 chipset, which is exactly the same as the Mi A3. That smartphone also comes with a 720p display, and so does this, but this one comes with 4GB of RAM. Remember, we got the higher end model, and the smartphone here is actually performing quite okay, I would say. I wouldn't call it a gaming smartphone or whatever, but you can play PUBG at the lowest graphical settings at high frame rates. So it's capped at 30 and pretty playable, not the best out there, but you get the idea. This is never going to be a gaming smartphone, but it is good enough. I did try Mario Kart Tour and that game works perfectly fine. So yeah, if you want to play some more casual mobile games, yes, it's good enough. And then comes the battery of the Realme 5. Remember that I mentioned that this phone is thicker? That is because this phone has a 5000 mAh battery, and oh my god, it is fantastic. This thing can last beyond 18 hours in our battery life test, and that is just fantastic. You can go up to 3 or 4 days without charging. But speaking of charging itself, this phone takes a really long time to charge because it only supports up to 5 volts 2 amps, and that took us about 3 hours to charge completely. So from our test itself, it takes 66 minutes to reach 50% of battery charge and 115 minutes to reach 75% of battery charge. So yes, this really takes a long time to charge, so I really suggest you to leave it overnight to charge. So in conclusion, the Realme 5 is actually a pretty good deal. I would personally recommend you to get the cheaper one, which is 599 ringgit at 3 gigs of RAM with 64 gigs of storage. You have a micro SD card slot here, so just buy another 128 gigs and slot it in. Those cost about 70 ringgit nowadays, so yeah, it's a very good deal. If you want that extra gig of RAM, then yes, you have to fork out another extra 200 ringgit. But I personally would suggest you to get the 599 ringgit version. You get the same 4 cameras, and overall user experience of this phone is actually pretty good. So if you want something that's really low price and works really well, so I think yes, this is a good smartphone, especially for that 599 starting point. And that is all for our review of the Realme 5 here. Do check out our other video, which is the Realme 5 Pro review, and I will see you in the next video.